Coming up on Network Africa, Ethiopian troops kill top officials of the Tigray People's Liberation Front. Ugandan presidential candidate Bobi Wine sends his wife and children abroad ahead of next week's election. Plus, Eswatini's acting Prime Minister Temba Masuku announces a partial lockdown to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. Ethiopian troops say they have killed top officials of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, in a military operation. Those killed include TPLF spokesperson Sekuture Getachew and Daniel Asefa, former head of Tigray Finance Bureau. Former head of the Ethiopian Broadcasting Authority Zera Asgedom and Abebe Asgedom were also killed during the operation. In a statement, the head of Defense Force Deployment Department, General Sefaye Ailu, said 9 other TPLF leaders have also been arrested. Now, the government had in November issued arrest warrants for more than 60 senior leaders of the TPLF. While the ripple effect of the Tigrayan crisis in Ethiopia is still being felt, Nixty is an Ethiopian refugee who left her country when the crisis began. She was pregnant when she fled Ethiopia to find safety in Sudan. Now, even though she never thought that she would be able to deliver her baby safely, she now has a baby girl. All she wants now is peace in Ethiopia so she can return home with her family.
Nixty was about to become a mother when conflict forced her out of her home in Ethiopia's Tigray region. Heavily pregnant, she walked for 3 days and delivered a baby girl in Sudan, where it was safe.
When we left, I was hungry and tired. I was also pregnant. Sometimes I fell in the middle of the road, and sometimes I would walk without resting.
Over 52,000 Ethiopians have fled to Sudan following conflict in Tigray. The UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, and other humanitarian agencies are helping them, providing food, shelter, healthcare, water and sanitation. But the needs are overwhelming, and there is a real concern of outbreaks of waterborne diseases. Many of the refugees are women and children.
I thought about how my life was in danger and thought I was going to die on the way. It was so hard for me. There were many complications in my pregnancy. I did not expect to deliver the baby safely.
Currently, many refugees remain in overcrowded conditions without proper facilities, enough medicines and other supplies. The UN agency and Sudanese authorities have moved thousands of refugees from border points to Rakuba camp, situated about 70 kilometers away from the Ethiopian border. However, many say they prefer to remain near the border to wait for family members still in Ethiopia or in hopes they will be able to return home soon.
I want my country to have peace and to go back to my home with my family to our land.
At Village 8, the transit center near the Lugdi crossing, refugees can access clean water in nearby communities and are using a number of existing temporary shelters.
To politics now, Ugandan presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine, says he has sent his wife and children abroad ahead of next week's election. He reportedly made the decision because he'd been warned they were a target, even as the country heads to the polls on Thursday, January 14th. The opposition politician says friends living outside the country had offered to host his family for their safety. Mr. Kyagulanyi's bodyguard was killed last month. when he was run over by a vehicle belonging to a military police. Bobi Wine is also asking the International Criminal Court to investigate President Yoweri Museveni for sanctioning human rights abuses.
It is my hope that the International Criminal Court will see it necessitating and indeed viable to see that General Museveni, General Eri Tumwine, and many others are presented to the International Criminal Court, because justice should chase everybody. Otherwise, the people of Uganda are continuously suffering in the dark. The reason why I am wearing a bulletproof jacket and a ballistic helmet is because I expect a live bullet targeted at me anytime. I have had to evacuate my family and sneak them out of the country because my family also has been targeted, and we had information that my children were to be kidnapped in order to subdue me into accepting whatever. This is how I'm being treated by the police. I am parking on the side of the road so that the network does not break off. But unfortunately, I am being harassed. I'm not even allowed to park on the side of the road. Okay. As you can see, they are shooting at us. We have not committed any crime. I've only parked on the side of the road. And now they are arresting me for speaking to the media. I am back again. I'm sorry, I've been tear gassed in my car. The police officer is ordering that I'm not supposed to park on the side of the road and speak to media.
Eswatini's acting Prime Minister Themba Masuku has announced a partial lockdown in the country to prevent the further spread of coronavirus. The country that was previously known as Swaziland is a neighbor to South Africa, where coronavirus cases are surging due to a new variant. The Prime Minister says that starting today at midnight, the only public gatherings allowed are funerals with attendance limited to 50 people. All retailers will close their premises at 6 p.m. local time, while liquor stores will close at 4 p.m. local time and remain closed during weekends. Travel outside Eswatini will only be allowed for medical purposes, school, businesses, and also work. The new restrictions will be in place for 14 days before a review is done. Now, the country has recorded 234 new coronavirus cases on Thursday, bringing the total cases to 10,773, including 268 deaths. Well, South African healthcare workers are describing the grim hospital conditions they are facing, complaining of a lack of adequate PPE and other medical facilities and equipment needed for their work. A more contagious coronavirus variant, first found on South Africa's east coast late last year, is driving a second wave of infections in the country, pushing its total to 1.15 million, or about a third of Africa's cases.
It's a matter of choosing who to save or who not to save. It's not nice.
Okay.
Rich Sasina walks on the front line of South Africa's battle against COVID-19. With infections now at more than 1 million, driven by a more contagious variant, he and other nurses say they can't cope.
In my facility, there's a patient who died in a tent because the wards were full. And there's nothing the hospital management could have done, by the way. You die, then you open the streets.
He and other representatives of the Young Nurses Indaba Trade Union describe grim conditions in South African hospitals, including patients sleeping on the floor and morgues that are full. Portia Maseko is a nurse at Leratong Hospital. She says they are still being given substandard personal protective equipment.
We are still being given substandard PPE. And if government hasn't even now given us proper things to work with, how are they going to roll out this vaccine and make sure that we are protected as the frontliners?
The country has recorded the highest number of coronavirus infections in Africa at 1.15 million, or about a third of the continent's total. Young Nurses Indaba President Lerato Mthunzi says the country needs a stricter lockdown.
Nurses are demoralized. They are burned out. and they are just dragging themselves, as they are the only people that we are currently relying on. Doctors, nurses, healthcare support staff, all equally are really in a bad state.
The health ministry says it will vaccinate 40 million people, or 2/3 of its population, in order to achieve herd immunity. Though health workers have also voiced concerns that authorities have not acted fast enough to secure the required vaccines.
If you're planning on using the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Kenya soon, you will have to exercise patience on arrival. Now, this is because travelers using JKIA in the capital, Nairobi, have been asked to arrive 4 hours before departure time to avoid inconveniences caused by ongoing renovations. The Kenya Airports Authority, the body that manages airports in the country, says the repairs at the airport are meant to improve passenger experience. Now, this airport is East Africa's largest airport and is also a vital international hub for Africa. Well, Kenyan journalist Abby Agina joins us now for more on this. Thank you so much, Abby, for speaking to us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what has been the reaction from passengers, especially on the disruptions this renovation has caused?
Well, thank you for having me on the program. Well, this particular development has come as a sense of disruption, especially to one of the busiest airports in East and Central Africa, that is the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, which has a handling capacity of 3 million passengers per year. So far, we do know that majority of the travelers have been experiencing delays when it comes to checking in, when you go to the departure terminals. Well, so far the government has outlined plans to upgrade the arrival terminals and the departure terminals, that is Terminal 1A and Terminal 1C. All these will be temporary inconvenience according to the government, because they say the investment will turn around the airport to become a more modernized airport, which will be able to handle customers in a better way. They're looking to spend about 963 million Kenya shillings to ensure that this project is delivered on time. For now, it is, as they say, no pain, no gain for passengers here in the Nairobi.
It is sure to have an economic impact on Kenya and even internationally, considering the fact that, you know, this is East Africa's international airport, isn't it?
Rightly so, as you've put it. JKIA is literally the gateway into East Africa. It is the largest airport currently in the eastern side of Africa. And by this upgrade, it will not only boost fortunes for the airport, and of course, it will increase the number of passengers that will be able to pass through the airport. And JKIA is not going to be left behind. So far, we know countries in Africa that have been upgrading their airports. In Ethiopia, the International Airport is also one of the airports that has been renovated and expanded. Even in Tanzania, the Mwalimu Julius Nyerere International Airport has recently undergone a lot of facelifting. And of course, further afield down in Rwanda, in Kigali, they've also been upgrading their airport facilities. And all this is in line with handling the increasing demand for air travel. Of course, right now, we do know that air travel hasn't been at its peak, especially with the COVID-19. But it is destined to be a better year compared to last year for the aviation sector. So what is currently happening is JKIA is readying itself as we are anticipating an upsurge in air travel once the vaccine begins to be distributed across African countries. For now, it's more of creating the platform, creating the environment so that when the right time comes, when people are traveling, they come and experience an experience of a lifetime when they're passing through East Africa's largest airport, JKIA.
All right, then. Thank you so much. Abby Agina, Kenyan journalist. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me.
Still ahead on the program. Our Africa Tech segment takes a look at how the tech industry fared in 2020 and the outlook for 2021. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Reports say Boko Haram militants have killed 14 people in an overnight attack in the town of Mozogo in Cameroon's far north region. The jihadist group has in recent days staged several attacks in the same region despite the government's claims of success against them. According to the mayor of Mozogo, Buka Mejewe, local residents started fleeing to a nearby forest as soon as they heard that the attackers were approaching the town. A suicide bomber who hid among the fleeing civilians detonated explosives, killing 11 people on the spot before gunmen shot 3 others dead. The mayor says the military responded quickly but couldn't shoot at the militants who had mixed up with the civilians. Well, a UN interagency assessment mission has arrived in the town of Ulam in Niger to evaluate the situation of people who fled the attacks in 2 villages of the Tilaberi area, killing over 100 people. The attacks, which occurred on January 2nd, also left over 25 people injured.
According to local authorities, over 100 people were killed and more than 25 others were injured. Our humanitarian colleagues on the ground confirmed that a UN interagency assessment mission has arrived in the town of Walam to evaluate the situation of people who fled the attacks. According to the mission's findings, about 10,600 people have been displaced, and a majority of them found refuge in Mangai's village with host families who are already vulnerable. Our humanitarian partners will support the government-led response by assisting with registration of displaced people and the delivery of emergency assistance. Mobile clinics are already set up to strengthen the healthcare situation.
Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. The start of the year 2020 came with high expectations on how to make businesses more intelligent through digital transformation, data-driven dynamics, and even internet security safety. There were hopes that during the course of the year, the intersection between people and technology would have been redefined. But everything changed with the COVID-19 pandemic, and what became important was how to use technology to improve businesses. Well, we have joining us now Chukudum Chukwedo, a digital transformation consultant. We'll be discussing with him how the industry fared in 2020 and 2021's outlook. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Tech.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Now, the pandemic no doubt has had many impacts in different sectors. With regards to digital trends, which would you say has been the most affected?
Well, so the pandemic impact, in particular the lockdown, had quite lots of impacts. On one hand, it had some negative impact, and on the other hand, had some positive. On the negative side, for Nigeria and for Africa, it showed the gap in our critical infrastructure. Particularly, it showed that there was insufficiency in appropriate technology and business policies. It revealed that the ease of doing business is still poor across the Africa sub-region. It showed that there was expensive internet access, amongst others. However, on the flip side, it also revealed that Nigerians and Africa at large have very resilient and creative people. So within this same pandemic period, South Africa, for one, was able to use WhatsApp to design chatbots that get to tell people about coronavirus. We had Wellvis in Nigeria that was able to do applications that helped to triage COVID-19 victims. There were explosion in analytics and visualization across many African countries, and remote working became a norm within the year 2020, and we also had adapted e-commerce. So these were kind of the key trends that stood out last year, 2020, within the pandemic.
Now, in a world where discussions evolve around AI, robotics, data analytics, like you just said, Nigeria, is still struggling with issues on power, infrastructure, and even the latest digital identity. What do you think, what can we do to, be at par with other countries?
Okay, so first I would say let's give some credit to a number of these countries. So from like the likes of South Africa, Rwanda, Ghana, Nigeria. Nigeria, for one, the steps that are taking the right direction is first like the finance bill that has just recently been signed into law. So that would help SMEs to be able to be more competitive, like help them understand things like tax policies and make it a little more easier in doing business. But then also there's the new CBN circular on the new license categorization of Nigerian payment systems. This would help to improve the fintech space regulated properly. And however, the extra things that a country like Nigeria and the rest of Africa at large will still need to do are things like continue to enact relevant technology and business policies. So our leaders also need to consider signing Nigeria-friendly, Africa-friendly agreements with major internet providers. And there's a need for the government structures to firm up and implement regulations surrounding data protections. Yes, we have the NDPR, but we have to go beyond just having it and actually implementing and putting sanctions where necessary. And this will lead into the place of, okay.
Just before we end this, conversation, there are some basic concepts that some people are looking forward to, that will shape the year 2020. Talk us through these projections for this new year, 2021. I beg your pardon.
Okay. So I would say there are 6 key things that, 5 of them that I think will stand out in the year 2021. There's going to be continuous drive for a cashless and contactless payment system. There's going to be a massive increase in e-commerce and remote working solutions. There's going to be increased adoption of big data analytic solutions across public and private institutions. We expect to see the rise of low-tech mobile solutions such as more SSM, SMS, USSD solutions, and we expect more government regulations in the technology space.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Chukudum Chukwedo, Digital Transformation Consultant. Thank you for your thoughts on Network Africa.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And that's how we end the program for today and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke. Have a great weekend.